The Shona are a group of Bantu people in Zimbabwe and some neighbouring countries. The main part of them is divided into 5 major clans and adjacent to some people of very similar culture and languages. Therefore, there are various interpretations whom to subsume to the Shona proper and whom only to the Shona family. Shona regional classification. The Shona people are divided into Western Shonas and Eastern Shonas. Origins of the Shona come from the Rose V state. Ethnologue notes that the language of the Western Shona is mutually intelligible with the main dialects of the Eastern Shona, but counts them separately. Shaw members: Karanga of Southern Shona, Duma, Yana Mhari, Gova, Nyubi Gavra Rose V, sharing the Karanga dialect. Sizurua Central Shona, Budia, Gova, Tand, Tivara, Nyongwe, Funshan Gwe, Karekorea Northern Shona, Shawasha, Gova, Mabaya, Sunga, Kachikwakwa, Harava, Nova, Nyanya, Nobu Kwazwimba Narrow Shona Toko Wesa. Members are close relatives, Manyika in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. In Desmond Dale's Basic Shona Dictionary, also special vocabulary of Manyika dialect is included. Kalanga in southwestern Zimbabwe, rather integrated in the Nguni culture, therefore little identification with the other Shona and Botswana. Delonda, Bataleo, Lili Mabe Piri Banyai, speaking Nambia in Zimbabwe and Botswana, sometimes subsumed to the Western Shona, and Dau in Mozambique and Zimbabwe. The language is only partly intelligible with the main Shona dialects and comprises some click sounds that do not occur in standard Shona. Language and identity. When the term Shona was invented during the Mafeking in late 19th century, possibly by the Ndebele king Malikazi, it was a pejorative for non-Nguni people. On one hand, it is claimed that there was no consciousness of a common identity among the tribes and peoples now forming the Shona of today. On the other hand, the Shona people of Zimbabwe Highland always had in common a vivid memory of the ancient kingdoms, often identified with the Monomotapa state. The terms Karanga, Kalanga, Kalaka, now the names of special groups, seem to have been used for all Shona before the Mafeking. Dialect groups are important in Shona, although there are huge similarities among the dialects. Although Standard Shona is spoken throughout Zimbabwe, the dialects not only help to identify which town or village a person is from but also the ethnic group which the person belongs to. Each Shona dialect is specific to a certain ethnic group, i.e., if one speaks the Manyika dialect, they are from the Manyika group tribe and observe certain customs and norms specific to the group. As such, if one is Zizuru, they speak the Zizuru dialect and observe those customs and beliefs that are specific to them. In 1931, during the process of trying to reconcile the dialects into the single standard Shona, Professor Clement Dirk identified 6 groups, each with subdivisions. 1. The Karekorea Northern Shona, including Ta Upsilon Arab, Shangwe, Karekori proper, Go Upsilon et Budia, the Karekori of Urungwe, the Karekori of Sipali Low, Tand, Nyongwe of Darwin, Pfungwe of Emrua. 2. The Zizuru group, including Shawasha, Hara Upsilon et, another Go Upsilon et Nova, Hira, Nyanya, Mabaya, Nobu, Vakwa Chikwakwa, Vakwov Imba, Sunga. 3. The Karanga group, including Duma, Yana, Mari, Go Upsilon Ira, No Go Upsilon et Nyubi. 4. The Manyika group, including Hungwe, Manyika themselves, Te Upsilon E, Unyama, Karam, Nyamuka, Bunji, Domba, Nyatwe, Gutta, Umba, Hia, Jindwi, Boka. 5. The Ndau group, including Ndau themselves, Tonga, Gawe, Danda, Shanga. 6. The Kalanga group, including Nyi, Namzia, Rose V, Kalanga proper, Talahundra, Lilima, Humbe, and Pari. The above differences in dialects developed during the dispersion of tribes across the country over a long time. The influx of immigrants into the country from bordering countries has obviously contributed to the variety. Shona culture. There are more than 10 million people who speak a range of related dialects whose standardized form is also known as Shona. Most researchers point to the ancestors of the Shona as the creators of Great Zimbabwe, the largest pre-European stone structure in Africa south of the equator. The origin of the ruins was once highly debated but has largely been resolved. Subsistence. The Shona are traditionally agricultural. Their crops were sorghum, jam, beans, bananas, African groundnuts, and, not before the 16th century, pumpkins. Sorghum and maize are used to prepare the main dish, a thickened porridge called sadza, and the traditional beer, called wawa. The Shona also keep cattle and goats, in history partly as transhuman herders. The livestock had a special importance as a food reserve in times of drought. Already the pre-colonial Shona states received a great deal of the revenues from the export of mining products, especially gold and copper. Housing. In the traditional homes, called musha, they had separate round huts for the special functions, such as kitchen and lounging around a yard cleared from ground vegetation. Arts and crafts. The Shona are known for the high quality of the stone sculptures. Also, traditional pottery is of a high level. The traditional textile production was of expensive and of high quality. People preferred to wear skins or imported tissues. Shona traditional music, in contrast to European tradition but embedded in other African traditions, tends to constant melodies and variable rhythms. The most important instrument besides drums is the mbira. Singing is also important and families would group together and sing traditional songs. History. The term Shona is as recent as the 1920s. Kingdoms of Kalanga and or Karanga had, from the 11th century, created empires and states on the Zimbabwe plateau. These states include the Great Zimbabwe State, the Torwa State, and the Munhu-Mutapa states, which succeeded the Great Zimbabwe State, as well as the Rosevi State, which succeeded the Torwa State, and with the Mutapa State existed into the 19th century. The states were based on kingship, with certain dynasties being royals. The major dynasties were the Rosevi of the Moyo totem, the elephant, and the Hungwe dynasties that ruled from Great Zimbabwe. The Kalanga who speak Tej Kalanga are related to the Karanga, possible through common ancestry. Some Shona groups are not very familiar with the existence of the Kalanga, hence they are frequently not recognized as Shona today. These groups had an Adelphic succession system, and this, after a long time, caused a number of civil wars which, after the 16th century, were taken advantage of by the Portuguese. Underneath the king were a number of chiefs who had sub-chiefs and headmen under them. Decay. The kingdoms were destroyed by new groups moving onto the plateau. The Indabella destroyed the Chamgama's Rosevi state in the 1830s, and the Portuguese slowly eroded the Mutapa state, which had extended to the coast of Mozambique after the state's success in providing valued exports for the Swahili, Arab and East Asian traders, especially in the mining of gold, known by the pre-colonization miners as Kuchera Diutswa. The British destroyed traditional power in 1890 and colonized the plateau of Rhodesia. In Mozambique, the Portuguese colonial government fought the remnants of the Mutapa state until 1902. Beliefs. Nowadays, between 60% and 80% of the Shona are Christians. Besides that, traditional beliefs are very vivid among them. Therefore, some people consider the Christian model split as low as 25%. The most important features are ancestor worship and totemism. Ancestors. According to Shona tradition, afterlife does not happen in another world like Christian heaven and hell, but is another form of existence in the world here and now. The Shona attitude towards dead ancestors is very similar to that towards living parents and grandparents. Nevertheless, there is a famous ritual to contact the dead ancestors. It is called Bira ceremony and often lasts all a night. Totems in Zimbabwe. Totems have been in use among the Shona people since the initial development of the culture. Totems identify the different clans among the Shona that historically made up the dynasties of their ancient civilization. Today, up to 25 different totems can be identified among the Shona, and similar totems exist among other South African groups, such as the Zulu, the Indabella, and the Hero. People of the same clan use a common set of totems. Totems are usually animals and body parts. Examples of animals totems include Shiri, Hungwe, Mhofu, Yamukono, Musa Yamwa, Mabezi, Tembo, Shumba, Mabeva, Wesa, Katriri, Soko, Nzou, Gwina, and Dziva. Examples of body part totems include Gumbo, Moyo, and Bepe. These were further broken down into gender-related names. For example, Zebra group would break into Maduv for the females and Duveamaz Fimbakupa for the males. People of the same totem are the descendants of one common ancestor and thus are not allowed to marry or have an intimate relationship. The totems cross regional groupings and therefore provide a wall for development of ethnicism among the Shona groups. Shona chiefs are required to be able to recite the history of the totem group right from the initial founder before they can be sworn in as chiefs. Orphans. The totem system is a severe problem for many orphans, especially for dumped babies. People are afraid of being punished by ghosts if they violate rules connected with the unknown totem of a foundling. Therefore, it is very difficult to find adoptive parents for such children. And if the foundlings have grown up, they have problems to get married. Burials. The identification by totem has very important ramifications at traditional ceremonies such as the burial ceremony. A person with a different totem cannot initiate burial of the deceased. A person of the same totem, even when coming from a different tribe, can initiate burial of the deceased. For example, a Indabella of the Mpofu totem can initiate burial of a Shona of the Mhofu totem, and that is perfectly acceptable in Shona tradition. But a Shona of a different totem cannot perform the ritual functions required to initiate burial of the deceased. If a person initiates the burial of a person of a different totem, he runs the risk of being asked to pay a fine to the family of the deceased. Such fines traditionally were paid with cattle or goats, but nowadays substantial amounts of money can be asked for. If they bury their dead family members, they would come back at some point to cleanse the stone of the burial.